Imagine being told to build a 4-story wooden megastructure by hand in the middle of a parched desert, miles away from the nearest ocean. For an ancient family of 8, it sounds like an architectural suicide mission. For centuries, critics have looked at the story of Noah's Ark and seen an absolute physical impossibility. A wooden box of this scale shouldn't be able to survive a cataclysmic storm, hold thousands of animals, or sustain life for a year without suffocating its passengers. The ancient text gives a very specific blueprint: 300 cubits long, 50 wide, and 30 high. Translated to modern measurements, that is roughly 135 meters in length, giving it a footprint almost exactly the size of an American football field. When modern naval engineers and biologists analyze those exact dimensions today, they find a self-sustaining ecosystem engineered to survive cataclysmic conditions through precise mathematical modeling. The blueprint's length-to-width ratio of 6:1 creates a low center of gravity, a standard naval architects use today. To prevent cracking under immense pressure, the interior featured a honeycomb grid of crossbeams. This distributed wave impact safely across the vessel. Protecting that wood was a heavy layer of natural bitumen, a thick, asphalt-like substance harvested from the earth, applied to both the interior and exterior. The application of pitch sealed every inch of the structure against leaks, but it provided an even more crucial mechanical advantage. Bitumen is highly elastic. It allowed the massive wooden planks to physically bend and flex with the surging ocean without snapping. This combination of the 6:1 ratio, honeycomb bulkheads, and flexible bitumen allowed the wooden structure to withstand the crushing shockwaves of a global storm. Getting a ship to float is one thing. The real logistical nightmare is what goes inside. Cramming millions of individual modern animal species into a single vessel is mathematically absurd and entirely unnecessary. The ancient text groups creatures by their ancestral kinds. Instead of every distinct breed, you only need one pair of generic canine ancestors, possessing the genetic potential to branch into modern wolves, foxes, and dogs. This consolidation drops the passenger count to 6,800 animals. To further optimize space, the crew likely selected juvenile or pre-adult specimens. Younger animals take up less space, consume significantly less food, and produce vastly less waste. Inside the vessel, these animals were systematically divided across 3 distinct decks. The heaviest creatures were deliberately assigned to the bottom tier, creating physical ballast that locked the ship's center of gravity deep in the water to prevent rolling. The manifest prioritized biological preservation and physical equilibrium, ensuring the ship remained stable while carrying its diverse population. Housing thousands of living creatures in a tightly sealed wooden box introduces an immediate, invisible threat. Within hours, the daily accumulation of tons of feces would cause a lethal spike in toxic ammonia and carbon dioxide gas. Surviving a year in these conditions required a passive sanitation system. By installing slightly sloped floors in the animal stalls, gravity naturally directed liquid waste into centralized drainage channels, eventually flushing it down into holding tanks and out into the sea. Fresh drinking water was managed with equal efficiency. Captured rainwater was filtered through layers of sand and charcoal, then distributed directly to the animal troughs using a network of hollow organic materials like bamboo, entirely eliminating the need to haul water by hand. To handle toxic gas, the builders utilized Dsohar, a roof opening acting as a thermodynamic chimney. Hot, noxious air from the animals naturally rose and escaped. This created negative pressure, pulling fresh, cold air from outside down through wall cavities to the bottom deck. Without a single electrical fan or motorized pump, the vessel functioned as a completely passive, self-regulating ventilation and sanitation machine. While the animals were kept fed and breathing, the 8 human passengers faced a completely different kind of torment. The acoustic environment inside a wooden hull during a global hurricane, combined with the calls of thousands of stressed animals, would easily exceed 85 decibels. That is the continuous noise equivalent of standing on the floor of a heavy industrial facility for an entire year, a sensory overload that breaks human psychology. The architectural solution isolated the human living quarters far away from the noise and smells, placing them securely on the top deck. They likely lined their walls with thick organic materials, creating rudimentary soundproofing to carve out a small zone of sanity. Paired with the highly regimented daily routines of feeding and maintenance, the ship's layout proves that protecting the human mind from breaking was just as critical to the mission as keeping the water out. After a year of isolation, the wooden hull finally struck solid ground, resting on the peaks of the Ararat Mountains as the waters receded. These core ancestral pairs provided the genetic baseline allowing for the diversification of the modern world. Modern genetic studies note that even small, isolated populations can undergo rapid speciation in a newly vacant environment following a major disaster. The humans stepping off the ship also faced a harsh reality. The pre-flood world was gone, replaced by a ravaged landscape where plant food was scarce. To survive this temporary desolation, humans adapted their diet, incorporating meat for the first time. The blueprint of Noah's Ark reveals a grasp of fluid dynamics, biology, and logistics that was thousands of years ahead of its time. Regardless of how one views the story, the engineering documented in these ancient dimensions is a testament to sophisticated strategic planning,